Welcome. This is A Course in Miracles, Palm Beach Study Group. Tonight we're in Chapter 15, Section 3, Littleness versus Magnitude. In the book, it's in the text on page 306. Be not content with littleness, but be sure you understand what littleness is and why you could never be content with it. Littleness is the offering you give yourself. You offer this in place of magnitude, and you accept it. Everything in this world is little because it is a world made out of littleness, in the strange belief that littleness can content you. When you strive for anything in this world in the belief that it will bring you peace, you are belittling yourself and blinding yourself to glory. Littleness and glory are the choices open to your striving and your vigilance. You will always choose one at the expense of the other. So this is very simple to translate because littleness is ego. So I'll reread it. Be not content with ego. Be sure you understand what the ego is and why you could never be content with it. Ego is the offering you give yourself, as we created the ego. You offer ego in place of magnitude, which is spirit, and unfortunately, we've accepted it. Everything in this ego world is little because it is a world made out of ego, in the strange belief that ego can content you. When you strive for anything in this physical world, in the belief that it will bring you peace, you are belittling yourself and belittling yourself to glory. Because it can't. You can only achieve peace and glory through the spirit. Littleness, ego, and glory, spirit, are the choices open to your striving and your vigilance. We have the choice, we have free will. You will always choose one at the expense of the other. So if you choose ego, it's at the expense of spirit. If you choose spirit, it's at the expense of ego. Any questions, comments? Paragraph 2. Yet what you do not realize each time you choose is that your choice is your evaluation of yourself. Choose littleness, and you will not have peace. For you will have judged yourself unworthy of it. And whatever you offer as a substitute is much too poor a gift to satisfy you. It is essential that you accept the fact, and accept it gladly, that there is no form of littleness that can ever content you. You are free to try as many as you wish, but all you will be doing is to delay your homecoming. For you will be content only in magnitude, which is your home. it is essential that you accept the fact that there is no form of ego that can ever content you. You will be content only in spirit, which is your home. Paragraph 3. There is a deep responsibility you owe yourself, and one you must learn to remember all the time. The lesson may seem hard at first, but you will learn to love it when you realize that it is true and is but a tribute to your power. You who have sought and found littleness, remember this. Every decision you make stems from what you think you are and represents the value that you put upon yourself. Believe the little can content you, and by limiting yourself, you will not be satisfied. For your function is not little, and it is only by finding your function and fulfilling it that you can escape from littleness. Every decision we make stems from what we think we are. We either think we are mere schmear human beings in our little egos, or we think that we are spiritual beings. And depending on what we think we are, that reflects the value that we put upon ourselves. Obviously, if you think you're a spiritual being, you are of a much higher value. You place a much higher value on yourself than you do if you just accept yourself as an ego being, as a body, as a physical being. But it's telling us that our function is not of the ego. And our true function is to be spiritual beings on the planet. And by doing that, we can escape from the littleness, from the ego. Any comments, questions? Paragraph 4. There is no doubt about what your function is, for the Holy Spirit knows what it is. There is no doubt about its magnitude, for it reaches you through him from magnitude. You do not have to strive for it because you have it. All your striving must be directed against littleness, for it does require a vigilance to protect your magnitude in this world. To hold your magnitude in perfect awareness in a world of littleness is a task the little cannot undertake. Yet it is asked of you in tribute to your magnitude and not your littleness. Nor is it asked of you alone. The power of God will support every effort you make on behalf of his dear Son. Search for the little, and you deny yourself his power. God is not willing that his Son be content with less than everything. For he is not content without his Son, and his Son cannot be content with less than his Father has given him. So we must strive to be the spiritual beings that we are and release ourselves from the ego thinking. And we must be vigilant. In what regards? Well, every time something happens that makes us angry, we have to be vigilant that, oh, wait a minute, that's ego. I feel anger, that's ego. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to release that. I'm going to forgive the situation. I'm going to embrace love. I'm going to embrace spirit and not allow the ego to overtake me. I'm not going to feel hatred. If I do feel hatred, I'm going to stop myself. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to allow love to embrace me. That's what they're talking about when they say be vigilant. Be vigilant against the ego coming into your mind and stripping you, removing from you your magnitude and replacing it with littleness. Any comments, questions? Paragraph 5. Oh, yes, David?
Well, I notice when I act from love that I get good responses, or people are just quiet, either one. But I find out later, they'll say something to my wife, and she'll tell me. And so when the situation is happening where I'm acting from love, people are very cautious about my intentions, and I've let that go and just try to act from love in situations, and it's worked out well.
Yes. People who are caught in ego are always looking at everything with ego eyes. So somebody comes them acting out of spirit, and it's like, what's this? They think you have ulterior motives or something. It's not recognized because they're looking at it through the ego. And so it's important that you realize that and you just be peaceful and loving and kind regardless. Thank you. Okay, paragraph 5. I asked you earlier, would you be hostage to the ego or host to God? Let this question be asked by you. Let me start. Let this question be asked you by the Holy Spirit every time you make a decision. For every decision you make does answer this and invites sorrow or joy accordingly. When God gave himself to you in your creation, he established you as host to him forever. He has not left you, and you have not left him. All your attempts to deny his magnitude and make his son hostage to the ego cannot make little whom God has joined with him. Every decision you make is for heaven or for hell, and brings you the awareness of what you decided for. So again, we all have free will. We're all free to choose hell. We're all free to choose ego. Spirit doesn't force us to choose spirit, but gives us the opportunities to use our free will, to change our mind, to make the decisions. But we've never been abandoned by God. So that's the question to ask when you find yourself in situations. Would I be hostage to the ego or a host to God? That's the question. Paragraph 6. Holy Spirit can hold your magnitude clean of all littleness, clearly and in perfect safety in your mind, untouched by every little gift the world of littleness would offer you. But for this, you cannot side against him in what he wills for you. Decide for God through him. For littleness and the belief that you can be content with littleness are decisions you make about yourself. The power and the glory that lie in you from God are for all who, like you, perceive themselves as little and believe that littleness can be blown up into a sense of magnitude that can content them. Neither give littleness nor accept it. All honor is due the host of God. Your littleness deceives you, but your magnitude is of him who dwells in you and in whom you dwell. Touch no one, then, with littleness in the name of Christ, eternal host unto his Father. So despite the ongoing understanding of the difference between littleness and magnitude of ego and spirit, we have the lines that neither give littleness nor accept it. Neither give ego nor accept it. And it also is telling us in this paragraph that, the door through which we enter into this is the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit will teach us. And there was one other piece in here. Oh, yes, and it says, paragraph 7 at the end, your magnitude is of him who dwells in you and in whom you dwell. So it works both ways. There is that of God in me, and I am in God. So it works both ways. Neither give littleness nor accept it. My magnitude is in him who dwells in me, and I dwell in him. So it's very important to understand that relationship. Yes, David.
It just came to me that spirit brings you to awareness.
Say that again.
That being in spirit or in magnitude brings you to awareness. You know, the Buddhist concept of awareness.
Yes, that's what the Course is helping us to become aware of what we truly are. Thank you. Paragraph 7. In this season, Christmas, so again, you know, these writings come from Helen's writings of her communication with Jesus. So it must have been Christmas time when she actually wrote these for the first time. So in this season, Christmas, which celebrates the birth of holiness into this world, join with me who decided for holiness for you. It is our task together to restore the awareness of magnitude to the host whom God appointed for himself. It is beyond all your littleness to give the gift of God, but not beyond you. For God would give himself through you. He reaches from you to everyone and beyond everyone to his Son's creations, but without leaving you. Far beyond your little world, but still in you, he extends forever. Yet he begins all his extensions to you. Yet he brings all his extensions to you as host to him. The Course teaches us that God created us by extending his love. That's how creation happens. God extends his love. So we're not a separate thing that God made like happens in the ego world. We're created because we're extensions of God. That's why he is within us and we are within him. And basically this is saying that that process is still in operation, that as we reach out in love, we are extending the love of God into the world as God extended himself to create us. So we extend that same love out into the world, and that's how we create. Any comments, questions? Yes, David.
It's been coming to me lately that we do this, what you're talking about, by example. If we're the example, a few people may pick it up, but nothing's going to change unless, you know, I am the example, and so are you. If we all do that, it's very attractive, and I think people will join in if they're aware, if they're not too far into ego and or littleness, not into magnitude or spirit or love.
Yes, thank you. Well, we do. We have to have faith that as we put the Course into practice in our own lives, that we are, in fact, having an effect on the world at large. And although it may not be evident, there's the invisible forces that work through us. The spirit, remember, has no body. It's an invisible force. And that spirit of love that works through us goes out into the world and does work. And we may not see the effects of that in the physical, but we need to have faith that we are having an effect.
Do you ever notice when you're out in the world and you see someone who's spiritual lifted, and you notice this, you know, but you also notice if somebody's kind of depressed. You know, we have choices that we can make, and you know, you look to the example of other people and how you react to them because they're in a loving way, and you want to be around them, and they call people that have charisma, or there's a lot of words people use. They have the light. They use a lot of different words to describe that, but we learn by example.
Yes. Maura, did you want to speak?
No. This you know, this is my first time doing this. So it's kind of a little complicated, but I'm trying to pick up a little bit, and then I want to keep reading the book. But let me just ask you, when you said we are an extension of God, so and that's why we receive from Him love. That's all that we receive from Him. That's the same thing that we have to give to a neighbor, a brother, everything. So try to pass that love.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. What happened in, probably this is what happened if there is somebody that every time that comes to you, he always or she always come like trying to tell you how to do things, or it's I mean, it's kind of annoying, but how can you take this and give love? It's pretty hard for me. You know, always come see your negative things instead to at least see one positive. So now that I'm doing that, I've been trying to do that, but it's something like there is a point like I say, okay, I gotta go, because you don't want to hear more negative things, or you say, I know that I'm not perfect, I'm trying to do my best, but always they don't see my best. It's not like I have faith and I know that everything around me move because God, and everything I happen, even if sometimes it's a little painful, but I know there is a meaning for that, and I have the hope in God that whatever is bothering me is going to go away. But sometimes it's very hard with deal with people, especially when it's in your family.
Yeah,
like that.
I understand. You know, part of being loving is being patient, is being compassionate, is being kind. And some people are difficult to deal with because they're so coming from ego and they're so wrapped up in their own fear and their own anger and other negative emotions. And so sometimes we can't reach them physically, but we can always think in our minds that they are a child of God. There is that of God within them. And we can ask our spirit, our higher self, to send spiritual love to their higher self. And we can work on the invisible plane with thoughts and emotions. And if we can, not act out of anger or frustration, which is difficult when you're being confronted by somebody who's operating out of ego, but eventually it does have an effect, and it won't resolve everything the first time, but it has to be done over and over and over again. Remember,
Yes,
you cannot control the other person. You can control yourself.
exactly.
You cannot control how they think or feel, but you can control how you think and feel. And that's the important thing. And it's like it said a couple of paragraphs earlier, that we have that choice, that, ask yourself, would you be hostage to the ego or host to God? It's our
Now,
choice.
yes, it is, because in me in particular, I feel like a fear when I know that what kind of person I'm going to deal. But now that's going to practice on this, and I think it's going to be something strong that is going to, I want to keep with me. So use it when it's the moment come.
Yes, in your mind, if you feel the fear, in your mind, say, Holy Spirit, I give this fear to you. You deal with it.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Holy Spirit, I give this anger to you. You deal with it. You just, the book tells us over and over again. Just give it to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is within you, and that's his job. His job is to take all of that ego stuff and transform it.
Love.
But he can't do that unless you use your free will to ask him.
To take it. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because that's the thing that we expect sometimes that he take it. He not that he love us so much that he's not going to take something without us give it to him. Yes.
Yes, spirit will not interfere with your free will.
Yes.
So when people go, oh, why is God doing this to me? Why doesn't God help me? Why doesn't? Well, did you ask? Did you give it to God for help? Or are you just expecting God to come out of the blue and help you because he's supposed to know what I need? Well, he does know what you need, but you got to ask.
Yes.
Ask and it shall be given to you. Isn't that what Jesus said?
Yes.
Ask, and it shall be given to you. You got to ask. You got to turn it over to the Holy Spirit. And this all happens in your mind. Again, all of this happens in your mind. It's how you think about what's happening in the world.
Yes, it's just like we just need to practice a little bit more, because we know
Yeah.
that. Ask to God to take it, or say, God, this is my pain. I'll give it to you. But are we expecting that? He knows what's bothering me. Why he doesn't take it? It's if you think for a minute, you say, well, I didn't open the door and say, here is what I
Right.
want to give. Thank you, John. It's beautiful.
You're welcome. Okay, we're on paragraph 8. Is it a sacrifice to leave littleness behind and wander not in vain? Is it not sacrifice to wake to glory? But it is sacrifice to accept anything less than glory. Learn that you must be worthy of the Prince of Peace, born in you in honor of him whose host you are. You know not what love means because you have sought to purchase it with little gifts, thus valuing it too little to understand its magnitude. Love is not little, and love dwells in you, for you are host to him. Before the greatness that lives in you, your poor appreciation of yourself and all the little offerings you give slip into nothingness. So again, we're being told that, how do you think about yourself? I have been known to tell people, I am God. And they think I'm being sacrilegious or something. And I'm not. I'm saying, no. God is within me. I am within him. I am God. That's how I think of myself. I am a spiritual being. I need to think of myself that way in order to be that way in the world. I'm trying. I'm not 100%. I'm not saying that I am, but every day I try a little bit harder. Every situation I try a little bit more. That's the important thing. So how do you think about yourself? Think about yourself as being magnitude, of being I'm a spiritual being, of being there's that of God within me, of being I am within God. So I am God's child. The child is like the father, So this is what they're telling us. What's your self-image? If you think of yourself as an ego being, that's what you're going to be. But if you think of yourself as a spiritual being, that's what you're going to be. And then number 9 says, Holy Child of God. He's telling us, you're a holy child of God. When will you learn that only holiness can content you and give you peace? Remember that you learn not for yourself alone, no more than I did. This is Jesus speaking. It is because I learned for you that you can learn of me. I would but teach you what is yours, so that together we can replace the shabby littleness that binds the host of God to guilt and weakness with the glad awareness of the glory that is in him. My birth in you is your awakening to grandeur. Welcome me not into a manger, but into the altar of holiness, where holiness abides in perfect peace. My kingdom is not of this world, because it is in you, and you are of your Father. Let us join in honoring you, who must remain forever beyond littleness. Number 10. Decide with me, who has decided to abide with you. I will as my Father's will, knowing his will is constant and at peace forever with itself. You will be content with nothing but his will, except no less, remembering that everything I learned is yours. What my Father loves, I love as he does, and I can no more accept it as what it is not than he can. And no more can you. When you have learned to accept what you are, you will make no more gifts to offer to yourself, for you will know you are complete, in need of nothing, and unable to accept anything for yourself. But you will gladly give, having received. The host of God needs not seek to find anything. So once we embrace and understand our spirituality, there's nothing more to seek for. The seeking for physical comforts, for money, for ego things is just like, that just goes out the window. Don't need any of that. The host of God needs not seek to find anything, because we have everything within us. We have God within us. Number 11. If you are wholly willing to leave salvation to the plan of God and unwilling to attempt to grasp for peace yourself, salvation will be given you. Yet think not you can substitute your plan for his. Rather, join with me in his, that we may release all those who would be bound, proclaiming together that the Son of God is host to him. Thus will we let no one forget what you would remember, and thus will you remember it. This is referring now to, the understanding that we are our brothers are us, that there's only one of us. that everybody in the world is a child of God, and we are everyone as everyone is us. From God's point of view, there's only one of us. From ego's point of view, there's billions of us. From God's point of view, there's only one of us. And so we have to look upon everybody else as being the spiritual being that we are embracing ourselves to be. And it is that understanding that that's when it says, rather, sentence 3, rather join with me, that's Jesus talking, in his, that we may release all those who would be bound, all the billions of people in the world, proclaiming together that the Son of God, the one of us, is host to him, is host to God. Thus will we let no one forget what you would remember. Because if we remember it, we're remembering it for everyone. And although we don't see that happening in the physical ego world, we have to understand that that is happening. And that just because we don't see it manifesting in the physical world does not mean that it's not happening on a spiritual level. That's why it's so important. Our thoughts are things, and we all share the same mind. So when we think that we are spiritual beings, we're thinking that thought for all of humanity. And that's where salvation comes from, realizing that. So it ends with paragraph 12, call forth in everyone only the remembrance of God and of the heaven that is in him. For where you would have your brother be, there will you think you are. Hear not his appeal to hell and littleness, but only his call for heaven and greatness. Forget not that his call is yours, and answer him with me. God's power is forever on the side of his host, for it protects only the peace in which he dwells. Lay not littleness before his holy altar, which rises above the stars and reaches even to heaven, because of what is given it. So call forth the remembrance of God in everyone. There is that of God in everyone. And when you see yourself in heaven, see everyone else in heaven. Any questions, comments? We've reached the end of our reading for this evening, so if there are any more comments or questions, now is the time.
For me, it's a good, like a good, something good to think about. Like God is in us, we are in Him, so we can pass this to a brother. Treating, I mean, when I say a brother, is anywhere
Right.
around it. the same way that he treat us, try to keep that on the mind. And I know like everything need practice, because even if somebody come to you with littleness, try not to give it back.
Right. Right.
Try to those littleness that he's given to you, transform in love, and give it in, like I said, patience and love, and return and give it back. So eventually we can have a better people around us. But
Yes.
it's all that we have to have in our mind and practice a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You got it, Myra. More.
Yes, I know it's hard. Never I wasn't a good reader, so I just got the book, read a couple of things, and put them down. But now, when you start reading, and I love when you do it, I can be like getting into my brain
Good.
and keep it there. And then I say, I need to practice, and I have something like putting on practice when the moment comes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's beautiful to all the big thing that you're giving to me. They're not little it, they're big thing, and I want to keep it and practice and then pass it on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so it was always a pleasure to be with you, and thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. All righty,
Okay.
friends, let's take a moment of silence and then we'll stop our recording.